The timeline didn't ease into this one. It got body slammed without warning. 1 second, people were scrolling like normal. The next whispers started flying that Chrisean Rock had finally snapped on Blueface mom, and before anyone could process that sentence, Jaidyn Alexis allegedly stepped in and turned tension into a full-blown showdown. Not an argument, not a misunderstanding. A moment so chaotic it made every pass blow up in this look like rehearsal footage. This wasn't shade being thrown. This was furniture moving energy. Clips started surfacing in fragments like a broken security camera catching only the worst moments. Audio half-heard context, missing emotions loud. And the internet filled in the gaps with gasoline. People weren't asking if it happened. They were asking how bad it got. Timelines split instantly. Grip chats caught fire. Reaction channels smelled blood like sharks. And the wisest part, this didn't feel random. It felt inevitable, like pressure building for months finally exploded in public view. This was family drama turning into viral warfare. Reality TV without the contracts. And once it leaked, there was no controlling the narrative, because when Chrisean snaps and Jaidyn steps forward, nothing stays quiet. The tension didn't come out of nowhere. It had been sitting there for months, simmering quietly, waiting for the wrong look or the wrong sentence to light the fuse. Anyone paying attention knew this family dynamic wasn't stable. It was fragile, cracked, and held together by social media silence and forced restraint. Blueface's mom had never been shy with opinions. She spoke freely, often publicly, and rarely with filters. Every comment felt like a spark tossed near gasoline. Chrisean, already living under constant scrutiny, heard every word like a personal attack, whether it was meant that way or not. What made it worse was the timing. Emotions were already raw, stress levels were high, and patience that was gone long before anyone raised their voice. When respect feels questioned long enough, even small comments start sounding like declarations of war. People forget that snapping isn't always sudden. Sometimes it's slow pressure finally breaking the surface. Chrisean had been swallowing frustration while the internet watched her every move, dissected her tone, and judged her reactions like a courtroom drama with no defense attorney. So, when that moment came, it wasn't polite, it wasn't calm, and it definitely wasn't private. Voices rose, boundaries blurred, and suddenly, a situation that could have stayed verbal tipped into something far more explosive. Witnesses described the energy shifting instantly. 1 second it was heated words. The next it felt like a storm rolling in without warning. That's when Jaidyn Alexis entered the equation and the temperature jumped another 10 degrees. Jaidyn didn't come in confused. She didn't come in neutral. Her presence alone changed the power balance. This wasn't about mediation or calming things down. This was about standing ground and sending a message that lines had been crossed too many times. At that point, emotions were louder than logic. Each side felt disrespected. Each person felt justified. And when pride collides with resentment, nobody walks away clean. Phones were already out. Not because people expected chaos, but because chaos had become predictable. When moments like this happen around famous names, documentation becomes instinct. Nobody wanted to miss what they knew would turn into headlines. And that's how the story escaped containment. Short clips started circulating almost immediately. No context, no build-up, just raw moments stripped of explanation and thrown onto timelines hungry for drama. The footage didn't explain everything, but it didn't need to. The damage was already done. Speculation spread faster than facts. People slowed videos down, zoomed in, and argued over body language like they were decoding a crime documentary. Every frame became evidence. Every pause became suspicious. Supporters of Chrissy said she'd finally had enough, that anyone pushed it hard would explode eventually. Critics said she crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed, no matter the provocation. Neutral viewers, they didn't stay neutral for long. Jaidyn's involvement split the audience even further. Some praised her for stepping in, calling it protective and decisive. Others accused her of escalating a situation already boiling over. The truth sat somewhere messy in between, buried under noise. What shocked people most wasn't just the confrontation. It was how quickly it confirmed what many suspected. This family situation wasn't healing. It was deteriorating in real time, broadcast piece by piece to millions. And then came the silence. No immediate explanations, no clarifying statements, just posts disappearing, comments disabled, and a collective pause that felt louder than any argument. Silence like that doesn't calm storms. It feeds them. Reaction channels wasted no time. Thumbnails got darker. Titles got louder. Everyone claimed exclusives. Everyone claimed insight. The situation turned into contempt before it even finished unfolding. Old clips resurfaced instantly. Past arguments replayed like foreshadowing. Things once dismissed as jokes suddenly felt serious. People started saying the signs were always there, that this was bound to happen. Meanwhile, Blueface remained quiet, and that quiet spoke volumes. In a saga filled with noise, absence became its own statement. Viewers debated whether his silence meant guilt, exhaustion, or strategy. As the hours passed, the narrative hardened, opinions calcified. Nobody was waiting for facts anymore. They were choosing sides, defending positions, and preparing for whatever clip dropped next. This wasn't just drama anymore. It became a referendum on respect, boundaries, and how much chaos people are willing to tolerate for entertainment. And once that line gets crossed publicly, there's no end button died. By the time the dust even pretended to settle, one thing was clear. This moment wasn't isolated. It was a crack widening into a fracture. And everyone watching could feel it. Because when situations like this explode, they don't end cleanly. They leave scars. And scars always tell stories. Once the clips spread, the internet didn't analyze. It reacted. And it reacted loudly. Timelines stopped being timelines and turned into digital courtrooms where everyone played judge, jury, and unlicensed therapist. Contacts became optional. Outrage became courtesy. Memes hit first. They always do. Screenshots were frozen mid-P expression. Captions added like punchlines, and suddenly a real confrontation turned into viral entertainment. People laughed, argued, reposted, and forgot that real relationships were cracking in real time. Reaction channels moved like emergency responders. Uploads stacked back to back. Thumbnails screamed urgency. Titles promised truth, exclusives, and what really went down. Nobody wanted to be late to the chaos because lateness means fewer clicks. Some influencers tried to sound balanced, talking about accountability and growth. Others leaned fully into mess, treating the situation like a pay-per-view fight recap. Sympathy and sarcasm existed in the same sentence, and nobody saw a problem with that. Celebrity reactions didn't come directly, but they didn't need to. A like here, a repost there, a vague tweet about protecting peace. Fans decoded everything like it was encrypted messaging. Silence became shade. Shade became confirmation. Comparisons started flying. People said this made reality TV reunions look scripted. Others joked that family therapy wouldn't survive 5 minutes in this environment. One comment said this saga has more plot twists than a binge-worthy crime series. The wildest part was how fast public opinion flipped. Someone praised in the morning was dragged by nightfall. Narratives changed every hour. What felt justified at noon looked reckless by midnight. Chrisean became the center of debate again. Some saw pain be neat be anger. Others said pain doesn't excuse public meltdowns. Support and criticism collided constantly, creating a feedback loop that fed itself. Jaidyn's role stayed polarizing. Supporters framed her as stepping in when lines were crossed. Critics said her presence poured fuel on flames that didn't need help burning. Both sides spoke with absolute certainty. Meanwhile, commentary grew harsher. Words like toxic and hinged got thrown around carelessly. Like labels stick better when they're dramatic. Very few people stopped to question why chaos seems inevitable in this circle. Past moments resurface like ghosts. Old arguments, old warnings, old interviews that suddenly felt prophetic. People replayed them saying, "This was always going to happen." Hindsight became a weapon. The internet also turned investigative. Who was there? Who filmed? Who leaked first? Conspiracy theories bloomed overnight. Some said the clips were strategic. Others claimed selective posting twisted reality. Truth got buried under theories. And then came the monetization debate. Viewers questioned whether pain was being packaged for profit. Reaction creators defended themselves, saying they were just reporting. Critics called it exploitation. The argument went nowhere, but got very loud. What made everything heavier was the realization that no one involved could escape the narrative. Now, every post would be analyzed, every silence dissected, every last screenshot, and turned into speculation. Blueface's absence continued to dominate discussion. People argued whether silence was smart or cowardly. Some said speaking would only make it worse. Others said not speaking already did not. At this point, the story had outgrown the original moment. It wasn't about what happened anymore. It was about symbolism, about cycles. It was about symbolism, about cycles, about how unresolved tension eventually erupts when cameras are always watching. Fans started choosing villains and victims like characters in a series. But real life doesn't follow scripts, and consequences don't fade when the episode ends. The outrage machine didn't slow down. It escalated. Commentary sharpened. Humor got darker. Empathy got thinner. And still, everyone kept watching. Because chaos like this doesn't repel attention, it attracts it. And the louder it gets, the harder it becomes to step back. The internet wasn't asking for resolution. It wanted the next moment, the next clip, the next breakdown, and that hunger. That's what makes the aftermath even more dangerous. When the noise finally slowed, the damage didn't disappear. It settled. Like smoke after an explosion, it lingered in every corner of the conversation. What people were left with wasn't clarity. It was aftermath. Reputations took hits in different ways, not evenly, not fairly. Public opinion doesn't move with balance. It swings hard. And once it locks onto a narrative, it refuses to let go. Chrisean's image shifted again, but this time it felt heavier. Supporters spoke about emotional overload and long-term pressure. Critics doubled down, saying public chaos keeps following her because she keeps inviting it. The sympathy didn't vanish, but it fractured. People still cared, but concern started mixing with fatigue. That's a dangerous place for public figures where empathy slowly turns into exhaustion. Jaidyn walked out of the storm with mixed reviews and louder scrutiny. Some applauded her for drawing the line. Others said stepping into volatile moments only multiplies damage. The praise and backlash arrived at the same time. Blueface's mom faced intense judgment. Past statements were replayed like evidence. Tone, timing, and intention were debated endlessly. Some felt she provoked. Others felt she was unfairly targeted. And Blueface himself stayed quiet long enough for theories to replace facts. Silence turned into symbolism. People projected motives onto him without restraint. When someone refuses to speak, the internet writes the script for them. The relationships involved didn't just strain, they calcified. Once conflict reaches this level publicly, trust doesn't rebuild easily. Everything becomes performative, guarded, and filtered through how it will look online. What followed was cleanup mode. Posts deleted. Comments limited. Statements carefully worded or avoided entirely. Damage control disguised as calm. But the internet doesn't forget just because a caption disappears. Behind the scenes, things likely felt colder than what viewers saw. Public drama doesn't end when the feed refreshes. It bleeds into private conversations, legal considerations, and long-term decisions. People never witness. Fans noticed the shift, too.
The tone changed.
The energy dulled. Where chaos once fueled entertainment, now it raised uncomfortable questions. How much is too much? When does spectacle turn into warning signs? Some people started disengaging, saying the situation felt less entertaining and more concerning. Others leaned in harder, waiting for the next eruption like it was inevitable. Because that's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. This didn't feel like closure. It felt like escalation paused for breath. The internet thrives on cycles. And this cycle looked familiar. Tension, explosion, silence, analysis, then repeat. Patterns that never break, just get louder each time. Brands watch moments like this carefully. Associations shift. Opportunities pause. Risk assessments change. Chaos doesn't just affect feelings. It affects money, leverage, and long-term positioning. Public trust erodes quietly. Not all at once. One incident at a time. One here we go again reaction after another. And once that trust weakens, rebuilding it takes more than apologies. What made this situation linger wasn't just the confrontation. It was the realization that everyone involved seemed trapped inside a narrative they couldn't control anymore. Every move now feels reactive. Every post feels strategic. Every silence feels intentional. Or at least that's how it looks to millions of people watching closely. And the watchers, they don't just observe, they participate. They comment, speculate, judge, and archive. The internet keeps receipts better than memory ever could. Eventually, attention drifted like it always does. Another headline replaced this one. Another scandal stole focus. But that doesn't mean this chapter closed. It means it went dormant because unresolved tension doesn't vanish. It waits. It sits quietly until the next trigger pulls it back into the spotlight. And given the history here, pretending this was the final blow would be naive. This saga doesn't end with resolution. It ends with warning signs flashing in the background while everyone pretends not to see them. The question isn't whether another moment will surface. It's one because when personalities collide under constant pressure, peace doesn't last. It pauses. And when it resumes, it rarely does so quietly. If you made it this far, congratulations. You survived another episode of internet chaos without throwing your phone across the room. That alone deserves respect. Now don't just sit there acting shocked in silence. Drop your thoughts in the comments because this situation has more sides than a broken cube and everyone sees it differently. Agree, disagree, argue politely, or don't. But say something. Smash that like button like it personally offended you. Hit subscribe like you're trying to lock in front of your seats before the next scandal explodes and turn on notifications because these stories don't send warnings before they go nuclear. Let's be real, drama doesn't slow down, it multiplies. And if you blink, you miss a headline, a leak, or a moment that flips the entire narrative overnight. This channel doesn't wait for PR statements. We don't whisper. We don't pretend chaos isn't happening. When secrets slip, when tension boils over, when the internet starts shaking, we're already there. So, if you're tired of half stories, fake calm, and watered-down commentary, you're exactly where you need to be, because the next clip is always closer than it looks. The next fallout is already loading. And the next this can't be real moment, it's never as far away as people think. Stay locked in. Stay curious. And remember, when the internet explodes, Vibe Crate breaks it down. Vibe Crate breaks it.